Hello, hello, hello. My name is Ashley Kirkwood with the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. I'm so excited to be here today for this amazing episode where we are going to talk about the importance of leveraging your past, the importance of leveraging your past. And if you are a speaker, an entrepreneur, anyone who's looking to land more clients and have more influence this year, I'm about to share a huge secret for you to master. Okay. I'm going to share a huge secret for you to master. So let's get right into it because I'm so excited about this story that I'm going to share. And then I'm also excited about the revelations that I've received from having the right view of my past. All right. So, if you have anything in your past that is not favorable, I want you to think about it right now. Drop a me in the chat if you happen to be joining this podcast live. Drop a me in the chat if you're joining this podcast live and you have anything in your past that you don't think is very favorable. I'm in that. I am in that number. If anyone is brave, just stand with me on this. One of the things that I was thinking about as I was planning this episode was this. If you know your past, you can manufacture your future. But if you negate your past, then you might stagnate your future. And here's the thing, guys. A lot of what I talk about on this show is for you all, it's to help you all land corporate clients, to grow your businesses, to get more proficient at sales, to perfect your mindset. And what I've realized today, because I started talking to some of my dynamic, incredible, phenomenal Speak Your Way to Cash Academy students who got the bonus call with me. We did a one-on-one call for those who paid in full. And we really started talking about, okay, how are we going to make the most out of our time together in the academy? And one thing that I saw over and over and over again is that so many people wanted to start completely over. They wanted me to give them a brand new strategy that had very little to do with what they've already done. They're like, look, I'm down to do whatever. Totally negating, in some instances, all the work they've already done in their past. And I began to think on that because I remember when I first became an entrepreneur. Can we go back? Can we go back to when I first became a full-time entrepreneur and I left my $300,000 job and I had all the good feelings? Because if you're anything like me, this is how my entrepreneurship story began. All right, bear with me on this. I had a boss. Boss was kind of disrespectful, and I was like, you know what? I don't need this. So when my boss got too disrespectful, because everyone has like a threshold, right? Once that threshold was crossed, all the confidence in the world rose up within me. And I waltzed into the head of the firm's office or the head of HR's office. And I was like, you know what? I don't need this. I quit. I don't need this. I quit. And I think they were literally, it was the meeting where they were either going to let me go or I was going to make a statement. And do you all know, I don't know if I've shared this, but the reason why I left my $300,000 job to become a full-time entrepreneur was in fact because my boss was really disrespectful. And when I say disrespectful, I mean, just didn't use nice language, would use profanity, would want me to hang out outside of office hours. Like, it was just very overbearing. Literally took a paper I wrote, told me it was insert expletive here, just a very overbearing person to work for. And what I noticed was so many women of color had worked at this particular firm. None of them stayed for longer than a year. So y'all know me, all the sass in the world. I asked her one day, why is it that not a single woman of color has worked for you for longer than 1 year? Now, y'all know you ask them type of questions in corporate and you're likely to get fired. Let's be real. Okay. So I asked that question. And do you know her response to that question was to have a meeting with me and the HR director to say that she didn't appreciate my attitude. She said I wasn't being loyal, like all these things, just totally inappropriate response, never answering the question, right? Once you do something like that in corporate, let's be real, you're basically putting a mark on your back, okay? So that was kind of that was a part of the buildup that happened. It was a ton of other things too that I don't even really remember because how wonderful is it? How much of a blessing is it that when you experience something that in the moment feels so horrific, and you get out of it and you start living such a better life, sometimes you forget how bad it really was. So I can't even tell you all the negative stuff because I don't stew in the past too long if it doesn't serve my future. But I remembered that, and I wanted to share that with you to say, I know what it feels like to have a job that you don't like. I know what it feels like to feel disrespected, to feel small at work, even though you've worked so hard to get where you're at. I know what it feels like to be, um, please, like, I know what it feels like to be the only Black woman there, highly qualified, but still be looked at like the diversity hire. I know what it feels like to have graduated from a top law school with a 3.86 GPA, cum laude, and still be looked at like, girl, how'd you get here? Like, what? So I know that that can be hurtful and it can take a hit on your confidence. And what I want to say to the person who's listening to this and who may be in a position where their job disrespects them, disregards them, or totally neglects them, doesn't even see them, I want to say to you that what you have to do in those environments is not allow their feelings to become your fact. I don't want you stewing on what they think. I don't want you making up conversations you think they're having about you when you're not there. I want you to determine who you are and walk in that regardless of your environment. And the reason that's critical is because if you leave corporate without your confidence, it will impact your sales as an entrepreneur. It will impact the way you show up. It will impact your ability to hold your power in rooms that you'll go to after you leave that job. And so it's really important to my corporate heroes who may not feel respected, who aren't being communicated to kindly, whose bosses never say thank you. I want you to know that their actions, you don't have to internalize the treatment that they're giving you. And it's important that you don't, because your confidence literally converts into your currency. It's real hard to show up in your power, to show up as an expert if you're not confident in who you are. All right. So now that I've shared that with you, yes, it's not good. I'm seeing some who childs in the comments. Okay. So look, some of you all feel me. So I went through all of that. And here's the other thing, if I may digress just a bit. Do you know how hard I had to work to be a young Black associate attorney at this large law firm, making that kind of money? First off, I negotiated that salary. I was paid more than, frankly, associates that were not of color, right? Like, I had negotiated that salary, transferred law schools, got the grades, interviewed, had multiple offers, renegotiated. I mean, it took so much to get there. And a part of leaving that I don't think I ever really grieved was like, dang, you worked this hard to get all of this just to leave and start over. Can I talk to the people who think they have to start over? Because you guys, the biggest mistake that I made when I left corporate to become an entrepreneur is I thought I had to start over. There are some of you that aren't walking into the power of your entrepreneurial journey because you're scared of starting over. But can I tell you what I didn't know then that I know now? That all of the experiences of your life, every hill, every valley, every employment opportunity you've had, everything that you've seen with your eyes, everything that you've heard with your ears will serve as stairs for you to stand upon for your future. Baby, you don't got to start over, is what I'm trying to say. And had I realized that I didn't have to start over, I could have gotten to where I'm at now so much faster. Let me make it very plain for you. While I was a corporate attorney, I represented so many companies, all of which have competitors. Had I gotten out of the mindset that this is what I thought. I thought when I was leaving corporate, I was also leaving all of my experience behind. I thought that corporate was like a bad relationship. Like, I thought corporate was like a boyfriend that when you leave him, you don't get, like, that's it. You cut him off, you block him, you don't talk to him no more. You know what I'm saying? I thought that's how my corporate experience was, but it's not. In fact, it's a stair. So a lot of people ask me why the subtitle of my book, Speak Your Way to Cash, is how to start at the top of the speaking market instead of working your way up from the bottom. Some people misconstrue that to mean that I'm saying speakers don't have to have experience or speakers don't have to have expertise. No, no, no. What I'm saying is we need to stand on top of all the experience we've already gathered, all the connections we've already made, and leverage them so that we're not starting from the bottom. A lot of us start from the bottom by choice because we're hiding from our past versus leveraging it. And let me show you what I mean. Now, I now teach speakers how to get paid to speak. Guess what I did in college? In college, not knowing where I'd be now, I sat on the board that controlled all of the money for all of the student organizations. I also sat on the board that determined which speakers we'd bring in. I negotiated all of the contracts for $70,000 for the University of Illinois while I was a student. It was about $70,000 back then when I was in college. I didn't know that now I'd be training speakers on how to get some of that money. But guess what? When I tell speakers, not only am I teaching you how to get paid to speak, I sat on the board that controlled millions of dollars. And I also sat on the board that controlled a particular portion of the money. And I hired speakers back in 2007. When I tell them that, guess what they say? They say, wow, that's experience I can glean from. She's been doing this for decades. She has experience I can learn from. And so in their minds, I'm on a higher level than a speaking coach who maybe doesn't have that experience. I'm standing on top of my experience so that I'm not starting at the bottom. And so many of you have experience that you're either ashamed of because they didn't treat you right there, that you haven't properly categorized, so you don't access it correctly and position it. But what I am here to tell you today is that if you're in my audience, you likely have experiences that you haven't even identified as experiences that can help you in your current state. And a portion of that reason, at least for me, if I'm being 100% transparent with you guys, is because the experience at the time I was in it looked like pain. It looked like disrespect. It looked like hurt. It looked like I wasn't valued. They told me I wasn't good there, so I can't talk about that experience now. But you get to determine the perspective on your past, and you get to determine the positioning of that past for your future. Everything you've seen and everything you've heard and everything you've done serves as clues on this journey called life to where you're supposed to be. But if you're not careful, you will discard all that experience and you'll feel like you're starting over day after day, week after week. You're rebranding all of the time. You don't know what you're supposed to talk about. You don't know what you're supposed to do. You don't know which direction you're supposed to go because you never processed your past in a healthy way so that the perspective and the experience is such that it serves your future. And because I know my audience, I know who's attracted to me. See, the way I talk, it repels people that don't know nothing about nothing. People who don't know nothing about nothing don't even like me, to be real, right? Like, they ain't here for this. They're not here for the work. They're not here for the fact that I talk about having degrees and credentials and experience and have some form of an ability to communicate what you know. They're not here for that. The get rich quick folks, I repel all that. So if you're listening to me, it's likely because you've done some things in your life, but there's a feeling deep in your heart that there's something more you're supposed to do. And you're tired of being disrespected by environments that were never meant to respect you. And let's be clear. I remember coming home to my dad. Y'all, my dad has a book coming out. Like, wait on it. It's going to be off the chain. Like, oh my gosh, like my dad is ice cold. If you never heard of my dad, like you'll hear him soon. But I remember going home crying to my dad. I was like, Dad, they're so mean. They're so mean to me. I feel like when I go to work, no one sees me. I go to work, I don't talk to anyone. I get to my office, I close my door because I feel like I'm not really wanted there. I was like, Dad, do you know how it feels that every day I walk into the office and in the lobby, I see Black people because they're security. If I go to a corporate event, I see Black people because they're serving food. But day to day, daily, those were the only African Americans that I saw. Every now and then, I would like go to the office where one of my other colleagues worked in a different department to see a sister, but I was the only sister in the Chicago office of my first firm. And it was a huge firm, one of the largest firms in the world, not in Chicago. And so I was telling him and I was just complaining. And I was like, Dad, I swipe my card. I get on the elevator. I close my eyes. I breathe in. I breathe out. The door is open. I get to my office as quickly as possible. I close the door. I do my work. I try to go to lunch with a friend, but I feel empty. And I was like, even if I say something, because it doesn't sound exactly like they want it to sound, I always felt disrespected there. I felt like people didn't think I was smart. Can we be honest? I felt dumb and unqualified with all the qualifications. In fact, I went into debt to get the qualifications. I was already a straight A law student at another law school before transferring to Northwestern. I transferred because a mentor of mine was like, if you stay at that law school, they won't respect you from there. And even though the first law school would have given me all the money in the world, I was like, nope, I'm going to a top law school because I gotta be respected. If I could be honest with you guys, for a lot of people who look like me, right? Who go and get these fancy degrees, who go and get all these accolades, it is one of the most hurtful experiences to recognize that even after doing all the things they tell you to do and looking like or better than everyone else on paper, you still may not be respected there. And because of that, many of us don't leave corporate, we run from it. In fact, some of us even hide from it. When I first left corporate, you guys, I'm being so honest with you guys today. I feel like I don't know if I'll cry or not. I mean, I'm not a big crier, but like if I do, roll with it. When I first left corporate, I didn't just leave corporate. I feel like I fled corporate. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm not going to work with corporations because, I want to work with, I just want to work with people that look like me. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I need a break. I need refuge. And my husband, being the wise man that he is, was like, Ashley, you have always served corporations. Why wouldn't you be able to serve them then? And the truth of the matter is, if I could be 100% honest with you guys, I didn't think I could serve corporations under my name. I knew I could serve corporations hiding beneath the big names that I'd worked for, but I didn't think they'd hire me. Does that make sense? Like there was a period in my journey where I was like, I mean, of course, I could hide behind the name of a Kirkland and Ellis or a McDermott, Will and Emery or a Sidley and Austin or Cars.com or Acquirent or I've worked Enterprise or Philip Morris, all of which I've worked for. I could hide behind those names, but like, will they pick up the phone for me on my own? And what I realized was, even though I had won some awards while I was in corporate, I'd gotten some great feedback while I was in corporate, the negative stuff stuck a little longer. And what I know from looking at the people that I serve who have very similar backgrounds as me, all the degrees in the world, experience, excellent communicators, brilliant minds, sometimes it's difficult to do what I teach, not because you can't do it, not because they won't hire you, but because you wonder, will they hire you under your own name? Does your name have enough weight to land the contracts that we talk about on this podcast. And I want you to know that I felt that too. And I don't know if I've told you guys that I felt that too, but I have 100%. And what I did in the very beginning of my entrepreneurship journey is I started serving people who I was comfortable with because I felt comfortable and confident there. However, when my husband talked to me about this, he was like, Ashley, you've always served corporations. You can't throw that away. You're really good at it. Like, I'd won jury trials, been in the paper. I was an American lawyer, like all the things, right? Your girl will tear up a courtroom in a minute. Ahem, you know what I mean? Settled some cases, broke some records, all that, right? And in sales, same thing, top performer all the time. He was like, you can't throw all that away. He was like, you can't throw all that away. You need to stick with 1, what you know, 2, what you're great at, and 3, what has always paid you a lot of money, right? Like, I would not have, if I were a lawyer for the state, I wouldn't have been making $300,000. If I were, I just wouldn't. The way law, like, I made that money because I represented corporations. And it's no different on this side. I get paid what I get paid to speak because the companies that pay me are really large companies. So it doesn't really make sense for me to hide from that experience. And so what I had to do, and what you may have to do, is start to catalog your past. And I want you to make a list. This is the list that you need. A list of every single company or account that you served as an employee. What are all the places you've worked? Go back as far as you can remember. Write down all the places you've worked. Write down what you did at each individual place as an employee. And then you're going to write down all of the accounts that you've serviced, all of the clients that you've had as an entrepreneur. You want to get a good look at who has already paid you on the corporate side, if anyone. Corporate or college or nonprofit or government, who has given you money for your speaking consulting services? Who's given you that money already? And then you want to figure out, when is the last time I followed up with these individuals? And if you did something, like, let's say me, for instance, when I worked on cases as a corporate lawyer, some of the clients we worked on were insurance companies. Ironically, the first company that I tried a jury trial for, before I even passed the bar, I started work early. When you're a lawyer, you start work at your firm right after you graduate law school, but you're awaiting your bar results. I actually went to trial. I got my bar results while I was on trial, helping with a case. And so how embarrassing would that have been if I didn't pass the bar, right? Like, I was already on trial. I'm like, hey, I'm here. What up? You know what I mean? I got my bar results. I was on trial. And it's so funny. One of the paralegals I was on trial with, I just was like, oh my gosh, she would do all types of things that were interesting to make my job a little bit more difficult. But I was on trial. I got my bar results. I passed the bar. And that client, a division of that client, became one of my first large corporate clients as an entrepreneur. So the reason I say you need to make these lists is so that you can really go back and pitch. Now, look at your NDAs and your non-competes and all that stuff. But so that you can go back and pitch those clients and or their competitors and use the fact that you have experience working with companies in that industry. Because again, you don't need to start at the bottom. Now, the experiences were different. I was on a jury trial working for an insurance company. Now I do speaking for that company, but I still have experience working within that industry that I can stand upon to pitch others in that industry. And guess what? Even if that same client wouldn't have hired me, I could have gone to all their competitors. How many insurance companies are there, right? So when you're trying to figure out who should you be targeting, what I see a lot of people do is they're like, all right, who should I be targeting? Who got the money? And it's like, well, where have you already proven you can thrive? Where do you have some level of industry experience? What do you already know? If your past has pain in it, you got to process that so that you can leverage it to make you some money. I mean, let's be real. I don't believe that we should go through all these trials, and not just go through, but overcome all these trials, all these tribulations, be talked to any type of way, be looked at crazy and sideways, not to be able to leverage it in the future on your own terms in your power seat. Everything you've seen, everything you've heard, everything you've overcome, everything you've experienced, every emotion you felt. What if I told you all of it is a setup for where you're going? All of it happens to be clues for what you're supposed to do in the world. What if I told you every heartache was to make you a better storyteller? Every tear was to make you more relatable. Every low balance in the bank account was to make you a more inspirational comeback story. I remember when me and my husband first got married. I mean, people can't believe it now because, baby, I travel nice. But when me and my husband first got married, we lived on 38th in California in Chicago. Like, literally, the bus that I took to get home was the same bus that people took when they got out of jail on 26th in California in Chicago. When we moved into our first apartment, we didn't have enough money in our bank account to pay our rent. So what we did was we went to Walgreens. I remember this vividly. We went to Walgreens. We had like $10 in the account. We needed $5 more we were paying in cash. We needed $5 more to pay the deposit on our apartment. At the ATM, you got to take out money in 20s. We didn't have 20s. So we went and bought a stick of gum from the Walgreens and got cash back so we could get enough money to pay the first month. Everybody don't get this, but like, this is literally things that we went through. So I could talk about it now, but in the moment, it felt embarrassing. In the moment, it felt like, dang, why we ain't got it like that? But to keep in mind, me and my husband got married at 22 and 23. He graduated college. And we were married before he graduated college. Like a couple months before graduation, we ditched school to get married. We ditched like one of our college classes. So I say all that to say, in the moment, it felt embarrassing. In the moment, it felt like kind of bleak. We used to have like boots on the car. In the moment, like I remember my husband called me one day because, child, I used to have parking tickets, y'all. Lord, thank you for deliverance. But I used to have parking tickets. My husband calls me one day from work. Ashley, I'm like, what? What's going on? Hey, babe. You know, newlyweds. Hey, babe, what's going on? He's like, Ashley, babe, they put a boot on my car and everyone at the office can see it because he worked in a school on the west side and the windows were glass. So people were literally calling him Mr. Chris, students, Mr. Chris, they're putting a boot on your car. I mean, in the moment, he was mad. We weren't able to just go to car lots, buy a new car, put everything on auto pay and pay our parking. I'm telling you this to say, as minute as that story is, in the moment, it didn't look like it would give me a perspective that I needed for my future, but it does. It does, because there's someone listening right now who, even though they have a good job or even though they've graduated college, they don't got it in the bank. And they're looking at me like, well, sis, God, I mean, look at this office. She had the thing built. The office was built out. You all saw the transformation, and she lands these contracts and she got this money and the bank is sitting right. But y'all, I have had experiences that didn't look like promise in the moment, that didn't look like the perspective would help me in the moment, that looked like pain. It looked like something I had to be embarrassed by in the moment. But what I told my husband, and me and Chris grew up different. I grew up pretty well. My parents took care of us. Mom and dad still married 30 plus years. My dad owned a 7-figure business back in the 90s, like had a mortgage company and all that. So I grew up well. And I remember talking to Chris, and he grew up different. Chris grew up different from me, a little more struggle. And we were having a conversation one day in the moment when we were living on 38th in California. And I told Chris, I was like, babe, we'll have money. I was like, we'll have money. I don't feel poor. That's a mindset. We'll have money. I was like, the beauty of this is I can think my way out of this situation. I can think my way out of this situation. I can think, because if I get a thought, the beautiful piece about being an entrepreneur through and through, this is how I feel like you're an entrepreneur. The beautiful piece about being an entrepreneur is this. Let me tell you guys. The beautiful piece about being an entrepreneur is this. When someone presents you with a problem, an entrepreneur is going to find a solution. And the way I think about problems in my life is this. If I see a problem, if I think of a problem, if I identify a problem, it's a wonderful thing. Because when you identify a problem as an entrepreneur, everything in your being is set to find a solution. So right now, in the middle of the pandemic, with people leaving their jobs in droves, with entrepreneurship on the rise, with prices skyrocketing, although salaries aren't necessarily skyrocketing, problems. Whenever you see a problem, the beautiful thing about having an entrepreneur's mind is you are wired to find a solution because you're wired to create. You're wired to create. And so I need everyone listening to this to look at their past and really start cataloging all of your experience, everything you've seen, everything you've heard, everything you've done. Catalog all of that experience. Make a list. Make a list. Write down what you did for them. Write down when it was. Write down who your point of contact was. Write down how much you were paid. And if you remember, if you were involved in contracting while you were an employee or still are, write down how much your company is being paid for certain things. I knew what I was being paid, but I also knew what they were billing out for my time while I was a corporate attorney. And it was a lot. 10 times what I was being paid, okay? Or around about. Write down the address. Write down if there's multiple points of contact there, because that's where your opportunity lies. And for anyone who is still struggling with finding their purpose or trying to figure out what they're supposed to do in the world, I want you to go on a scavenger hunt through your past and look for clues. What have they said about you at every single job, whether you like the job or not? What came up over and over again on your written performance reviews? What were the underhanded compliments you've gotten all your life? What were the actual compliments you've gotten all your life? What is the thing that your friends call you and ask you for advice for? What are the words that come to mind when people think of you? Because this is how you stand on your experience. And to do like a bit of a demonstration here, let me see how I can even do this. Look at all this, all these different books and stuff. It's going to be way easier to like stand on top of your experience. This would be way down here if it didn't have the help of all these books to stand upon. This is why I say you can start at the top of the speaking market, not because we're just arbitrarily putting out rates, but because you have done things in your life that you should be able to stand upon. That's called leverage. That's how you leverage your past, not by ignoring it or allowing people to give you a negative view of your past, not by complaining about your past, not by letting your past have power over your present and your future, but by leveraging it, by taking the win at every step of your journey, by taking the win at every step of your journey. You need to take the win. Take the win. You got fired from a job. Well, what are you taking from that? What win can you take from the job you were fired from? You had a client you didn't like. Okay, cool. Well, what can I take from that? What can I take? What did I learn from that? What's the lesson I learned? Because now I can stand on top of that lesson. If all I'm doing is complaining about it, I can't stand on top of a complaint. All complaints do is get me lower. They take me down. They don't take me up. When I start evaluating my past appropriately, now I have something else to stand upon. Oh, snap. Was somebody rude or disrespectful to me? Oh, okay. What did I learn from that? Oh, wow. Now I know who to focus on and who not to give my energy to. All right. Did I have a bad relationship in my past? Did they make me feel insecure? Oh, snap. But did I overcome it? Well, now I can stand on top of that additional resilience I've gained, that additional perspective I've gained about who I am. Did my parents not support me? Oh, man. Now I realize I can lean on God. I don't even need to lean on people. And everything I went through in my past, they didn't support me. They may have talked about me. They didn't make me feel whole and wholesome. Now I realize to be something that Dr. Kimbrough said. I heard he said that when you are a successful person, you are inner driven, right? Like now I know I need to be so content in who I am that even with chaos all around me, I know how to make peace. A lot of people think they got to find peace. Somebody got to give it to them. They got to buy peace. They need more money to get peace. But the truth of the matter is, wherever you're at, you need to be able to make peace. And the more situations you go through in your life, the better your perspective becomes. Now you can stand on that. Oh man, my first year in business, I didn't make any money. I only made, to be clear, my first year in business, I made $800. $800. We have done over $1 million in sales since then. That's only been 3 years. $800. Did I quit? No, I stood on that because with that $800 that I made, I realized what worked and what didn't work. I realized which people I should be focusing on and which people I shouldn't be focusing on. So I stand on that. But you know what some of you all do? You're like, oh, I didn't make any money last year. I just saw somebody post about 6 figures. She got it because she cute. She got it because she light-skinned with long hair. Oh, man, he got it because he has a wife that supports him. Of course you're successful. You went to Northwestern Law. But you tearing me down doesn't bring you up. And you not looking at me and saying, oh, snap, she paid $800 and then she did all this and did $500,000 in coaching and she's only been coaching 2 years. I mean, okay, well, that means I could do it too. Because every time you divorce yourself from success, all you're doing is making it harder for you to stand on top of the experiences that you've had. That's all you're doing. And let me tell you something else, because we need good perspective with social media. Because what social media does is it causes comparison, which can be a thief unless you let it motivate you. Comparison can be a thief or a motivator, and it all depends on your perspective. But every single time God puts success in my eyesight, I take that to mean it's for me. All right. Well, why are you showing me this? Why did you allow me to see it? And this is the declaration I think you should make over your life. It's helped me in some of my lowest moments. God doesn't tease me. So if he's showing me things, it's because I can achieve some things. It's because I can learn some things. It's because he wants me to have something to stand on when I'm feeling weak. Every time I want to tear myself down, he allows me to see someone post about a blessing that they got so I can now feel more powerful. And I can say, Lord, thank you for reminding me that you're not a respecter of persons and I can do it too. This is what it means to start at the top instead of working your way up from the bottom. And to be clear, all of these books are standing on a desk. And do you know where I got the desk from? Metaphorically, go with me here. The desk came from my parents. My parents built me up. They really did, y'all. I was in their house. I had a 2 point, I don't know, something in high school. It wasn't a good GPA. And I would come home with my grades and my dad would say, you're brilliant. Did the teacher make a mistake or did you not give it your all? He never called me stupid though. In fact, his first question was, do I need to talk to the teacher about making a mistake? Because I know you're brilliant. This doesn't reflect who you are. So that confidence is the desk that all this other stuff can stand on. Parents give right perspective. But let me tell you something. Even if you did not have parents that gave you that perspective, it is now your obligation to correct your perspective before you lead other people or raise other humans. Can we be honest about that? Because if your perspective isn't right, then you're making excuses for every little thing. I'm reading my dad's book. Because he's writing a book, and it talks about his journey growing up in Robert Taylor and how he saw certain things growing up that no kid should have seen. Like, this book is really good, you guys. It's deep. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm reading the words on the pages that describe the horrific experiences that my dad overcame. And I think like, man, what if he would have stopped there? What if he would have determined he couldn't get out of there? What if his perspective wasn't that God can do anything, even deliver you from a past that you didn't deserve? What if he would have said, his dad wasn't married to his mom, didn't treat his mother right, so he should treat my mama bad? What if he allowed me to see what he saw because his perspective was, this is all I know? I wouldn't have had the desk to put my right perspective on. My foundation would have been rocky. And although you can come out of anything, it would have made it harder. Leverage, having right perspective, standing on experience is the gift that we get to give others when we do what we need to do to make sure our perspective is right. So this is about more than how to make more money in your business. This is about you identifying why you don't think you're worthy of making it in the first place. Because money is a tool, not a measuring stick. It's a tool. It's something that I use. I could have $1 million in the bank. I could have $1 in the bank. If you would have seen me when we didn't have no money, you wouldn't have known the difference. I wasn't like walking around like, oh my God, I got to use a link card. I don't have any. No, it was the mind, like I had the perspective that I had did not change. The person that I am did not change. I've evolved, gotten more wisdom, but you don't have to look like what you're going through. That said, your perspective needs to be tight and right. The way that you leverage everything in your past so that you're able to stand on it to grow your business and to make sure you are where you need to be. The way that you do this, the way that you stand on top of all that experience to start at the top of your industry versus having to work your way up from the bottom is by leveraging everything you heard, everything you've seen, everything you've done, everything you felt into shaping a narrative of your future that will bless you and others. That's how you do it. So I hope that demonstration was helpful, because what I have seen in the work that I do as a speaking coach and a consultant and a high performance executive coach, what I've seen is that people like to negate their past experience and not give it the weight that it deserves, because there may have been hurt in their past. But that does not mean your past isn't supposed to serve your future. I don't care what you've been through. You have to figure out how to take the win from each and every situation, even when you didn't deserve it. Because I think that gets some of us caught up. Like, I didn't deserve that. That should have never happened to me. So I can't deal with that. I can't look for a blessing in that because I didn't deserve it and it didn't feel good at the time. You got to get your perspective right. That's how you start at the top of the speaking market, or any industry really, instead of working your way up from the bottom. So hopefully this was helpful. If it was, share it with a friend. I'll upload the full video to Instagram, and you all can tag your friends in it if they need a motivational message this Monday. But yeah, I'm really excited about what we have going on this year and how we're going to continue to show up and serve. And I'm so excited because the Academy starts tomorrow, which is exciting. So the Speak Your Way to Cash Academy program starts tomorrow for our 3-month cohort. I'm thrilled about the people that we have in this program. They're just powerhouses, all of whom have a past to stand upon. And I bet if you're listening to this, you do too. And so I want you to start categorizing that past in a way that it serves your future and helps you to get even more out of what you're already doing. And then let me know how that goes for you. Now, we'll be doing another Pitch Your Way to Cash challenge. It's our free challenge for speakers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. So you can go to speakyourwaytocash.com/challenge to sign up for that. Happy birthday, Felicia. You said tomorrow's your birthday. Happy birthday. If you want to know more about some of the services we have or programs, we did just release 10 plus new courses in our shop. So go to ashleynicolekirkwood.shop and you can check some of those out. Use code podcast to get 15% off. Make sure you're on our mailing list, y'all. We got some amazing stuff coming up this year, and I don't want you to miss it. You thought this was good. Wait till you see me at Speak Your Way to Cash Live, okay? Because some of y'all missed it last year. Y'all can't miss it this year. You just can't. It's something you don't want to miss, all right? But thank you so much for joining us, and I will talk to you guys later. Remember, You need a narrative of your past that serves your future. You need a narrative of your past that serves your future.